Yeah.
One thing that you touched upon earlier, and I think you're learning it, is when you're approaching people who don't believe in Islam, right? Which, okay, cool. You shouldn't come to them like this religion, this belief. Like when you take it to them, it's just here's what I believe. Or sometimes what I do a lot of the times is I don't even mention that it's Islam. I just mention that it's my point of view. And they're like, huh, that's really cool. I actually agree with that. And they just start agreeing with the things that you're saying only because you didn't call it Islam. Do you guys ever see that?
Yeah.
Omar Suleiman mentioned it before. You know Omar Suleiman.
Yeah.
But what they did is there's this thing that they did on YouTube where they put a Quran in a Bible, right? And they put a Bible, they took the
cover.
Quran and they put the Bible as the cover, and they went to I think it was, I don't know, somewhere up there in Northern Europe, and they went around to people who are Christian, Judeo-Christian thought. They were like, read this verse, this is from the Quran, and they'd read it, and they'd go, I can't believe it says that, I knew it was a religion of violence, right? He put the Quran, the Bible, in a cover of the Quran, right? And then he let Christians read the Bible, and they'd be like, I can't believe it. And
this Quran is so violent.
This Quran is so violent. I can't believe it says that. It's like, dude, that's the Bible. But
It's the
just
Bible,
your
bro.
perception, just your bias made it to where you hate it. But isn't that the thing that you believe in? Just
You
by
literally
perception?
just described judging a book
Just a
by its
different
cover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally.
It's crazy, man.
Absolutely.
So, what has, just because I think I need to do the people some more justice with you, and I want you definitely to comment on it, but what has been your experience, following some of the things about Islam, like not eating pork, all of that kind of stuff?
Positive. I mean, I would say positive personally, but it definitely has been a little difficult because, like, culturally, like, my family, Honduras, not even just Honduras, not even Central America, like Asia too, for example, like, pork seems to be a big part of cultural food consumption. Yeah, like, dude, I mean, roast pork, I'm not gonna lie, like, it's pretty good. It hits. Like, I've eaten it, I like it.
Mission barbecue pulled pork.
It's like, it's pretty good. But I haven't eaten pork actually in a while, and I'm not like, oh damn, like this sucks. Like, it's not like my life has gotten worse. If anything, I feel like it's gotten better. I've been healthier.
Yeah, and yeah.
But I do notice, right, when I would mention it to people, like some people, right, like this chick actually yesterday, she asked me, like, so why don't you eat pork? And I was like, oh, like religious reasons, I just choose not to, I gave it up. And then she's like, oh, like that's why I don't drink, religious reasons. And I was like, that's pretty cool, But then there's some other people, they ask me, it's like, oh, why don't you eat pork? Religious reasons. And they're like, oh, well, like, nah, and that's like, some of that stuff is not true. Like, we have different farming standards now for like pork and the consumption and all that. And what I notice is it's that like they're like arguing with me about the fact that I don't eat pork. Whereas like there's just no debate from me. I'm just like, yeah, just don't eat pork, man. Like, it's cool.
Yeah.
And they're like debating with me. They're like, nah, man, like you should eat pork. Like, we do things differently now. Like, it's really not bad for you. I'm just like, dude, it's like, I'm not debating this. Like.
Yeah, I used to, and I also gave it up.
Why?
Just, so, at first, my mom used to always tell me, like, my dad, my grandpa loved it, so as a young kid, I used to eat it. And
Dude.
my mom always literally told me, it was like, it was in the Bible how, the jinn would go into the pigs, and that's where they would be stored. And she's like, and you think that you want to eat that? And I was like, oh,
Nah.
yeah, definitely not.
But you're also a guy that takes care of his body.
I do eat a lot.
Did that play a role also? It's like,
Not really,
the
because
hell?
it was still meat, but it was just like choosing like a healthier consumption of what's better digestible in my stomach.
so You were telling me about this, your experience just even getting a lens, like a peek into the eyes of how a Muslim deals in a Judeo-Christian society. How's that been for you?
Wait, repeat?
Like the way, your ideologies, your philosophy, you as a Muslim, right? The way you're treated, the way people attack your beliefs. How has that been? Just getting even a peek of what it's like. And that's not even considering that you're a hijabi woman, right? You're like a person that can cover as a male.
Yeah, that's like, when I would mention it's like, oh, religious reasons like Islam, it's like people would kind of get taken aback. They're like Islam, there's a lot of terrorism in that. And I'm just like, nah, fam, like that's just ignorance, but whatever. So that's why, it's like you do get seems like a little bit of, I wouldn't say, I guess backlash. It's just like, I guess it's that, it makes people uncomfortable for some reason.
The mention of Islam makes people highly
really
uncomfortable, and it's a very odd thing.
It seems to be like, oh, Islam, terrorism, like automatically. And honestly, I mean, like, I could see, like, the news, like the Ayatollahs, like they're radicals, and I think that's what happens. It's like the news really exploit that radicalism, and that's just what people see. It's like, the people see those headlines.
They control the agenda.
Yeah, and then they take Islam as to be 100% that.
They put a spin on it to make it seem to they're saying what they want to say, and everybody else is just taking it in as that.
Dude, when I tell people who've never heard about Islam, they're like, I never knew Islam was like this. I'm like, what did you think it was? Like, it's very similar to Christianity. Islam is closer to Christianity than Christianity is to Judaism. And Islam is closer to Judaism than Judaism is to Christianity.
Yeah.
It's closer to both of those religions more than that. And somehow Judeo-Christian thought is prevalent, and Jews and Christians think they're the closer religions. And it's like, you're not.
Yeah.
Not at all.
It's like Judaism and Islam are like this.
They're cousins.
And then Christianity's like over here.
Yeah.
It's like, seriously. Yeah. And it's like, like Muslims don't eat pork. I had a friend, Ari. I met him in school like my first year. He's Jewish. Like, and he's like, he's Jewish. And when I first met him, what I thought was interesting is like at this time I still wasn't Muslim. I was eating pork, like I was just wilding, like.
Right.
But what I noticed that was different about him is he was a vegetarian and he didn't eat pork. Like, dude was super healthy, and like that's how I met him. We would work out. Cool dude. And that actually is what makes me question. It's like Islam and Judaism, right, are the two religions that when people really follow them, they don't eat pork. But Christianity, it's like that's just like not in the picture.
Even though Christianity says not to eat pork either.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. Like.
Yeah, I was just listening to. I forgot his name. That mega church leader. That guy, Joel Osteen. Mm-hmm. There we go. Yeah, he was talking about how Christians shouldn't eat pork, and the whole crowd was just laughing. Right. The whole crowd of Christians. He was like, by the way, you guys shouldn't eat pork, and they just. And it was also in Texas, right? So the whole crowd just busted out laughing. Like, what are you talking about, man? Like, we all eat pork,
it's
right?
Bacon every morning, bro. Like.
And he's like, I know, but Christianity, God calls on you not to eat pork. He calls on you even in this is not Islamic, like in this, and
right. It's not. That's my point. Not eating pork is not strictly an Islamic thing.
It's an Abrahamic religion thing. Any religion that derives from Abraham, things like that. Dude, I'll tell you one thing. Like, people think Islam's such a strict religion, right? And if you think of it, any human being, if they thought of it logically, would much rather be a strict Muslim than a strict Christian or a strict Jewish person. Christianity, when you follow it completely, is a much more strict religion than Islam is. And Judaism, when you follow it completely, is a much more strict religion than any religion in the world. I mean, Judaism followed completely is very difficult to follow.
Yeah.
Islam is like for example, like priests,
Ben's like,
priests can't, like, not obviously in all, and that's the difficulty of speaking on Christianity's theology, right? Because there's so many different branches. But, some branches of Christianity, priests can't get married. That's such a difficult, like, for you to, and not even strict. Let me remove
that's
strict.
very tough.
That is tough.
Let me remove strict. Being a religious Christian is much more difficult than being a religious Muslim, and being a religious Jew is much more difficult than being a religious Muslim. People somehow think Islam's strict. It's like, no. What you're seeing is a bunch of people who are religious and actually follow their religion. And if you did too, you would actually have a more difficult life than that religion that you're calling strict.
Yeah. Islam it's been bettering my life for sure. Slowly but surely. But it's like, it has. And
That's
I noticed it has. Like, that's the thing. It's like, I noticed it had.
What people need to recognize is that this wasn't an overnight thing for you. Because we were all there in that transition with you, like in that journey, in the start of it. That was 3 years ago. This has been a 3-year and forever lifelong journey. It's not, and that's what people need to recognize, is that just like any other subject, you can't take a calculus exam, or you can't start taking calculus and you're going to start immediately knowing how to do derivatives.
Right.
And so people act like that when it comes to God, when it comes to faith. Well, I've been trying to find God, I've been trying to find this and that, but I can't find it. It's like, well, have you been learning? Have you been educating yourself? Have you been learning how to, in the analogies term, figuring out how to derive a derivative? No, you haven't. So
you got to go through the steps.
You have to go through the steps. You have to educate yourself, and you have to recognize that, at least in Islamic theology, God said that the first thing he created was a pen and a paper. And even before the universe, even before creation, he created a pen and a paper. And the first thing ever was a pen, right? And you look at your own life, and you look at humanity, and you find that what makes us powerful is that we have pen and paper. And so the knowledge of one human being doesn't die with them. It gets passed down to multiple and many and thousands of generations afterwards because of pen and paper. And so that is how humanity has become strong. That is how humanity has been able to develop over the years the way it has been, not stay stagnant. It's literally because of pen and paper and books and writing, right? So there's a clear indication that the creator, that the being that created this universe, has a love for pen and paper, has a love for knowledge. One of the first verse that ever came down in the Quran is read in the name of your Lord. That is the first verse. There's an emphasis on that. And so just like anything else, just like math, just like history, just like science, in order to find God, you have to put pen to paper. You have to educate yourself. You have to read, and you have to give it as much time and as much passion and love as you would anything else, any subject matter. And people just think it will just come to them. Oh, I'll pray to God, and God, you find me, give me a sign, and I'll believe in you. It's like, that's not how it works. Do you do that with derivatives? Do you go, derivatives, give me the answer, and I'll believe you're an actual calculation of mathematics? That's not how that works.
Dude, I'm not even gonna lie. When I was first, beginning my journey, building that faith, that mustard seed, I was like that. I was like, I want a sign. And then I realized I was foolish. But crazy, dude. It's I was driving back home from work, and there was a storm, and I was just like, man, God, give me a sign. And then as I'm driving by this open field, a freaking lightning bolt just struck right next to the field, and I was I was kind of shook, I was I think I'm gonna take that as my sign and cool it, yeah, dude, yeah.
And here's the thing, it can definitely be, you should definitely ask and pray to God to guide you. That should definitely be a thing. But as you're doing it, you yourself should be taking the steps and the initiative to find who God is. That's your entire, even Islamic philosophers, not Islamic theology, but the philosophers of Islam have said that the height of intellect, the height of reason, is discovering who God is. And not necessarily we will never ever really discover completely who God is, because we can't even grasp who he is. I mean, I remember you and I, when we first started talking about God, we were discussing whether God had a gender or not. Why is God with he rather than she? Why is it, why is this a kind of like a masculinity thing? Like, because humanity created the concept of God and men were in control and therefore they called it he. And in reality, what you recognize is God doesn't even have a gender. And that just blows your mind, because you're just sitting there like, whoa, God doesn't have a gender. It's like, no, why would he need a gender? I mean,
He just is.
And
That's...
and